First and foremost, we're going to introduce ourselves, and then we're going to kind of go through a breakdown of what today is going to look like. So buckle in. We have about 2 hours of really great content. So yeah, we're excited to get this to you. So first and foremost, my name is Meg Saunders. I'm an Assistant Director of the Business and Technology Community at the Career Center. I am going to start by kind of telling you a little bit about myself and my interests, skills, and values. So to keep it short and sweet, one of the things that I always like to talk about as far as what my skills are is I am a connector. So I really enjoy getting to know people. I really enjoy getting to know you all when we're in one-on-one appointments. I enjoy getting to know strangers. I just like to always find new people to meet and introduce myself to and get to know. And a part of that is by also getting to know what gaps they feel that they have and connecting them with resources that fill those gaps. So I say resources, but sometimes that may look like people to connect to, so like networking, or maybe it looks like resources on Handshake. Or maybe it's things. So maybe it's telling, you know, Kyle is gonna laugh at this, but a coworker about a new book that she has to read. So just kind of finding people, getting to know them, and then assessing gaps and connecting them with things that that will hopefully help them to live a meaningful life. George, take it away.
So hey everybody, George P. Kuda. I'm the Associate Director for the Science and Sustainability Career Community. Going off Meg's points there. So for me, kind of cheesy, but I've always been a big music guy. If you ever come to my office, whenever we can have appointments on grounds again, I have like a little ukulele in my office and I'll just kind of play it. And every student that I meet with, I try to find new music as much as I can. Skills, you know, I really kind of almost like pride myself in being able to have those meaningful and deep conversations with students because, you know, it's students, I mean, as you all, so it's just like being able to have those conversations, at times hard conversations, you know, you're really going to have that good and that breakthrough moment almost, like little aha moments. Some of my values, I'm a first generation college student. So for me, being a point person of resources, you know, I know what it's like to kind of feel lost at times. And so being able to kind of be there to help students along that path and be kind of that guide at times is something that I've always really valued because I know what it's like to be in those shoes and I want to be able to help students as best as I can. Being authentic is always a really big thing for me. You see who you get. Let me see how I say this. You see what you get. I'm a pretty straightforward man and pretty straightforward dude. And just being honest. And I've always been, thought I've been a pretty funny guy. So humor's always been one of my big values as well. But I'm really excited to talk to you all today to learn more about ways that we can build your network, especially during COVID-19 and this upcoming summer. I think you're going to take a lot of great things away from what Megan and all the other advisors have to say today for sure.
Yeah, so there's a reason why we did that. We are going to ask you in our first breakout room, so in a few minutes, we're going to ask you actually to introduce yourself in a similar way. So hold tight, but that is kind of what we just gave you a few examples of. Additionally, as George mentioned, there are some advisors or counselors on the line with us. They are going to introduce themselves in the separate breakout rooms. The cool thing is that you should have the same counselor for all 3 breakout rooms that we have today. So hopefully you get some really good conversation going with your peers and your counselors in your breakout rooms. So a few housekeeping things. We love to see your video on just because it's a lot easier to talk to a person than it is a name on the screen. But we also understand if your connection is not strong enough to keep your video on, we're happy if you also turn it off. Keep your audio off unless you have a question. If you have a question, please definitely chime in, or you can actually type it in the chats. I'm going to do my best to try to watch the chats while we also take you through this presentation. We have a lot of material to get through today. So if we can't get to your questions, We're going to do our best, but if we can't, please come to our office hours tomorrow from 10:30 to noon. The cool thing about office hours is that you get some really specialized attention with both me and George. And you don't have to stay the whole time. You kind of can drop in, get your questions answered, and then roll on with your day. Let's see. Let me know if you can't hear me, and let George know if you can't hear him. You can do that by either post, well, that would probably be the easiest way. It's just post in chat. You know, it is kind of nasty weather outside today, so we're hoping that our connection stays strong. But if you can't hear us, then definitely let us know.
Yeah, I'm also a mumbler, if you couldn't tell earlier. So if you can't hear me or you don't understand what I'm saying, definitely let me know to repeat something. More than happy to do so. Real quick, where is everybody's kind of current home base at? If you want to put that in the chat, that would be awesome, just to kind of see where everybody's at right now. Nova, Nashville. I've always wanted to go to Nashville. Love country music. Richmond, cool, I'm there right now. Charlotte, New York, Richmond, New Jersey, Lexington, really all across the...
Hey, Hunter from Lexington. I love seeing names I recognize.
Hi.
Greensburg, Sterling, Loudoun. I never knew there was a Jupiter, Florida. That's pretty sweet. Roanoke, cool.
Oh, George, you're going to Roanoke.
I'm going there this weekend.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't rain. Great Falls, cool.
So George is in Richmond, and I'm actually in Amherst, which is a really small town outside of Lynchburg. So neither of us are actually in Charlottesville right now. We do have some counselors in Charlottesville, but it's cool to see kind of where everyone's coming from. And yeah, that's the cool thing, right? Like, that's what's really cool about this virtual reality, is that geography doesn't matter. And so that kind of rolls into our theme of today, how to continue to connect with people when geography doesn't really matter. So a couple of learning outcomes. Let's see. At the conclusion of this event, you'll be more confident in telling your story. You'll know how to identify people in your network, whether that is thinking broadly about who could be in your network, or actually finding alumni and employers or people on virtual platforms that are in your network. George is going to take us through strategically searching and navigating the hidden job market, which sounds spooky, but it's not that spooky.
Like a little spooky, though.
It does seem, yeah.
Like a little spooky, but not too spooky.
Yeah. It's manageably spooky. So let's see. We're also going to talk about, okay, you found the person that you want to connect with. Like, how do you formulate a good message for that person? And then we're going to identify strategies to continue cultivating your network as you kind of watch it grow. Outline. So up first, we're going to share our stories. We're going to demystify networking and show you that it's not as scary as it may seem. And then we are going to talk about how you can kind of grow your story on a virtual platform to market it to folks. And then we're going to go through the 4 steps of growing your network. So that is, again, by just like fine-tuning your story, identifying people in your network, connecting or initiating the connections, and then also continuing to engage those people in your network. Another little ground rule here today, be ready to be collaborative. One of the cool things about networking is all about how you interact with other people. So let's start our networking here today with your peers. I never realized how valuable peers would be when I got out of school, because they are your network. So let's start that today. We're going to actually start, again, I've said this probably 3 times now, we're going to start with telling your story. You've probably heard this termed your elevator pitch. To me, elevator pitch seems kind of like strict and structured. Well, I want to think about it in a way of like, okay, what is my story? How do I convey that to others? And one of the ways to do that is to really reflect on what your skills, values, and interests are. I sent you all the Pathway U link. So if you have a chance to do that, that's great. If you didn't have a chance to do it, that's okay. We all know our skills, values, and interests. So I'm hoping that in our first breakout room, you can kind of share them with your peers and with a counselor and just get to know each other really, really well. Yeah. So
going off what Meg said, like I highly, I cannot stress this enough, highly encourage you all to take the Pathway U assessment. It is a really phenomenal assessment that we have that I personally wish I would have taken or had some sort of, version of when I was an undergrad. Because, in college, like that's really the time to kind of figure out who you are and the things that you truly do and do not enjoy. And that Pathway U assessment is a great tool to really help you understand those things, but also really have a chance to sit down and really understand more about yourself, which is huge.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. So let's actually start our first breakout. So you should see on your screen something pop up that says like join breakout room, and then you'll go to your separate breakouts, and you'll have your peers in there. So you're going to have about 10 minutes to kind of introduce yourself and get to know one another, and then we'll bring you back to this main site. So go ahead and start joining breakout rooms. We're happy to see you back in 10 minutes. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed getting to know each other and our awesome counselors that we have on the line. Okay. All right, so let's see. I think that is almost everyone. Once I see George back. Oh, we got George back. Okay. We are going to roll on to our next segment. So hopefully talking about yourself wasn't actually that hard. Yes, it may be uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be hard because you know yourself better than anyone knows you. And you should be able to discuss your skills, values, and interests. And maybe this terminology is foreign to you, but think of it really as your passion, because your passion leads you to make decisions. So it leads you to make decisions about your academic interests. So I'm sure some of what you told others was what your maybe major was, what your minor was, what maybe classes that you enjoy. Passion also leads you to certain extracurriculars. So maybe this was something that you incorporated into your story. So what CIOs are you a part of? Do you do research? Are you in a sorority or fraternity? Do you play sports? Do you volunteer? All of these things make up your story. And again, just another plug for Pathway U. I'm going to have one of my counselors actually copy that and put it into the chat. But this is a great site for you to go to just explore a little bit more about your skills, values, and interests and how they align with different jobs, as well as majors. Let's see. So we're going to go through demystifying your network. When I was a student, I was like so nervous to talk to professionals or alumni. I love to talk to people, but I always thought that like talking to alumni and professionals was like so intimidating. I thought like I was inconveniencing them. And then I realized that all of these alumni and professionals are also people. So if I like talking to people, then I should like talking to them as well. And then I also realized that they like to help. It took me some time to realize this. Honestly, it took me some time in the professional world myself. I'm actually an alumni, a double who of UVA, and I absolutely love returning the favor to undergrad. So helping them as they kind of pursue this, their path of course I get paid for that, but there have been times where I've been asked outside of my job to just talk to students about what their career path may look like and my experiences, and it's so awesome. I love to connect with students. So I want you all to consider really quickly this quote on the screen. So have you ever helped someone without expecting anything in return? I know you have. We all have. Humans like helping humans. So as soon as you start thinking, I'm inconveniencing this person by asking them to hear their story or asking them for help, challenge yourself to change your thinking. Challenge yourself to think, you know what? Maybe they want to hear from me. Maybe they want a chance to tell their story. Maybe they want a chance to have someone truly listen to who they are and where they come from and what their career path may be. And I say this, and really the highlight or the underline to all of this is when you are talking to an alumni or professional, make sure you're leading with curiosity. What I mean by that is come with questions that truly ask about them. People really do love to talk about themselves. So you're actually flattering them by asking those questions and truly listening to what they have to say. You'll find that if you ask these questions, and honestly, you can Google or even look on the UVA Career Center website for informational interview questions. If you ask the right questions, you'll learn that the conversation will flow naturally. So if you've taken a part of the Designing Your Life workshops, just think about this, or think about networking as prototyping conversations, okay? It's tomato, networking, prototyping conversations. If you haven't taken a part of the Designing Your Life workshops, that's okay. Think about networking is simply networking. If you do, side note, if you do want to take a part of the Designing Your Life workshops, we have some on Thursday and Friday. You can sign up on Handshake. But overall, consider all of this research. So just like you do in your classes when you're writing a paper, you're going out and you're asking people, well, maybe you're reading articles that have experts giving their opinion on a topic, and then you're taking that information and compiling a paper. Well, with networking, you're going out and you're talking to experts and you're learning about what they do, and you're thinking to yourself, can I see myself in this role? Or can I see myself working at this company? Do I have similar skills to this person? Do I have similar interests to this person? And so as you start to kind of expand your knowledge and reflect, you'll start to refine what you want to do, and you'll build connections along the way. A word of caution, networking is not about asking for a job. So, for example, if I were to have someone reach out to me and say, hey, I'd love to hear about your work, and then I talk to them on the phone, and then one of the first questions they ask me is like, yeah, is the UVA Career Center hiring? That's going to shut me down pretty quickly, because then I'm going to think, ooh, you just wanted to talk to me to see if you could get a job, okay? A way to reframe that is to honestly, again, lead with curiosity and develop relationships with the alumni and professionals that you're talking to, so that when an opportunity arises within their organization, they think, oh, Robert, that's who I am going to reach out to, because I remember that Robert was interested in software development, and our role is for software development. Okay, so that's kind of the psychology behind it. It's not connecting with people simply to ask for a job. It's connecting with people and growing that relationship so that when a job arises, you're someone that they think about. Okay. My favorite quote, aside from this, have you ever helped someone without expecting anything in return, is grow your network before you need your network. For those of you who are graduating and are like, no, but I seriously just need a job right now, it's okay to continue just growing your network, because what these alumni and professionals are going to acknowledge is that, oh, you know, Taylor, she's just graduated and she needs a job. So I'm going to expedite kind of her need in the top of my mind because I've really enjoyed my conversations with Taylor. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to George now to talk through a couple virtual platforms that you can utilize to expand your network.
Yeah. So we talk about networking, and this is, this is something that we know we have to start doing. And as Meg just said, you need to grow your network before you actually need it, right? So rather than, it's kind of like being a gardener, right? So you want to make sure that you're always kind of tending to these connections as you go. And we'll talk about this later also. But platforms like LinkedIn, which we'll mainly spend a lot of our time on today, but one that you may also, or may or may not be familiar with, is the Virginia Alumni Mentoring is also a phenomenal platform to really start building those connections. So what VAM is the Virginia Alumni Mentoring, and I'll put the link here in the chat for everybody to see. The really awesome thing about VAM is that it is specific UVA alumni who said, hey, I really enjoyed my time at UVA. What are the ways that I can give back? And so it's kind of a platform solely for UVA students to connect with other UVA alumni. So it's a really great opportunity, just like LinkedIn, to see where people are doing, what kind of roles they've had, their path. And the really great thing is that in VAM, depending on the alumni and their experience, they may have certain things that they are, specialist in. So if you're interested in going to graduate school, or if you're interested in learning about work-life balance after UVA, they'll put those qualifiers on their profile, and that, all right, I can talk to John, or I can talk to Jane, or so-and-so about these topics that I've been having questions on. So if you don't have a VAM profile, once again, totally cool. I would highly, highly, highly encourage you all to get on VAM, as it's just another platform to start networking. And the same thing for LinkedIn, which we'll spend most of our time in today. As we all know about LinkedIn, LinkedIn's a great platform to network, and we'll talk more about how to do that here throughout the day. So I already kind of said these things, why exactly these platforms are important, but to really dig a little bit more into them specifically. So first off, with LinkedIn, the one really cool thing I love about LinkedIn is that it really complements your resume, and more importantly, it is helping you build and market your professional brand, right? So there's that saying that if you're not on LinkedIn, you're not really in the professional world. So I know we had to do some homework for today of making sure that we have a LinkedIn profile, and we'll walk through today of how to build that up a bit more. And really think of your LinkedIn profile kind of similar to your resume as like a living and breathing thing, right? So you want to make sure that you're constantly updating your LinkedIn with experiences, things you may have done, interests that you may have, companies that you're interested in. Really treat it as something that you're spending time with, rather than, like a crock pot. I'm going to set it and forget about it. That's not what you want to do, right? So you want to kind of keep coming back to LinkedIn and use it. As we talked about earlier, and as we saw earlier, with us really all across the East Coast, we had a lot of people in Virginia, we had people in Ohio, we had people in Connecticut, and then also in lovely Jupiter, Florida. LinkedIn and VAM are really not restricted by geographical location. So it's really helping you see how broad your network can really be, even if you're not exactly in the same state, which is pretty awesome. So as I said before, VAM, it's a really great way to connect specifically with alumni who are interested in helping you all. So I would definitely encourage you all to build both of these profiles out. Other profiles to really check out, which are really cool, is the career shift. It's like another tool to use. That's going to be under our resources tab on Handshake. Definitely check that out. And then the Darden Mentor Program as well, which I think applications will open up this coming fall. And that's also going to be on Handshake also. So definitely give that check also.
Yep, that's correct, George. It'll be applications open every fall. So it's likely if you look in late August, you'll see applications for the Darden Mentor Program. And that's where you actually get matched with students from Darden to mentor you.
Pretty cool. Yeah, so yeah, another prime example of a great tool to really start utilizing if you're in the Darden Mentor. So we talk about LinkedIn, we talked about VAM, and then actually in our group, we talked about this earlier, some of the things that they want to get out today, like what makes a good profile, right? So off the top of y'all's head, if you want to put it in the chat box, what do you think makes a good profile for LinkedIn? Or what are some things that you should have on your LinkedIn profile? Not everybody all at once. Okay, here we go. So work experience, cool. Experience, updated resume. You definitely want to have a photo, yes. Um, I've seen some pretty weird photos out there, so make sure it is a professional photo. So that's kind of number one. Um, a strong bio, yep, definitely knowing who you are will help that make that bio stand out for sure. Your skills, yep, we'll definitely talk about keyword searches for those interest groups, yep. Technical skills for sure. Links to your websites or accomplishments. Yeah, you definitely want to, again, you're building that brand for yourself and be proud of the things that you've done. Any other things that make a strong LinkedIn profile? These are all right answers, so you guys are knocking them out of the park so far. Cool. PDF of resume. Cool. Good. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Projects. Yep, definitely have projects, that's actually a really great point, John. Depending on your major and depending on where you want to go, projects look different, right? So if you're a media studies student, that's going to look very different than if you're a computer science student, because it's still projects, but they're different products. So how do you get that and present that branding of yourself on LinkedIn? So yeah, like everything that you all said are great things that you want to have on your LinkedIn profile. So the kind of the main heavy hitters, definitely having a photo. And you want to make sure that your photo is public. Sometimes when I'm working with students, they'll say, I'll search them on LinkedIn and it won't have a photo. And they'll say like, I thought I did have a photo on there. Like, why is it not showing up? There's some sort of thing you have to click in the settings piece to make sure that your profile is viewable to everybody. So you want to make sure that you always are showing that profile out there. I'm sorry, that photo. Also, make sure that you have a really strong and almost aspirational headline. So, again, working with students, they'll say, third year student at UVA. And I imagine there's a lot of third year students at UVA, which is cool, but tell me more about what you specifically are looking for, right? So we have your photo, we have your name, and then it gives me, the potential recruiter or employer or alumni, things that you're looking for, right? So I know that person X is rising fourth year looking for summer opportunities in healthcare, or rising fourth year looking for research experience, or something along those lines. Just give me something of what you're trying to look for. You're looking for a job, recently graduated computer science student looking for opportunities in front-end development or something along those lines. Just give me something, right? And so, as someone said earlier, making sure that you have a really strong summary. The summary is really just kind of hitting your main points of who you are. So this could be things that you've done, your involvement, and they'll see more of those things down in your profile. Keywords are going to be huge when it comes to your branding piece. So if you are graduating, or regardless if you're graduating, if you want to start kind of aligning yourself with a certain industry or a certain field, do a basic job search and see what are some of the major keywords on a lot of these job descriptions that I'm seeing. If I'm seeing Python, if I'm seeing consulting, or I'm seeing management or program, or whatever those things are looking for, communication, critical thinking, analytical skills, make sure that you are sprinkling those things throughout your LinkedIn profile, because when I'm a recruiter and I'm looking for a certain skill, I'm just going to type that into the search function, and then I'll populate all the people that have that somewhere on their profile. So your keywords are really going to be huge when it comes to trying to align yourself with an interest area or career field that you're trying to move into. Regardless, again, if you're a second year or a recently graduated fourth year, you kind of know, just start aligning it via those keywords. As someone said earlier, make sure you have your work experience on there. Some students always have questions about, projects. Definitely get your projects on there. Those are great. If there's anything that you've done when it comes to volunteering or leadership, or any things that you've really done in your time at UVA, go ahead and get those on there. All that's going to be great and meaningful things to then have talking points if you're doing these informational interviews with alumni or anything along those sorts. Your connections is also somewhat important. With LinkedIn, it has various parameters on what you can do on the strength of your profile. So one thing is that, with fewer connections, there's fewer things that you can do. So, and we'll talk about this later, but make sure that you try to start building out those meaningful and intentional connections in LinkedIn. So think of your friends first. Think of your inner circle, your friends, people that you may have lived with, who live in the same building. All right, now let me start thinking of people I had classes with, my lab mates, people in my organizations. Really start with your inner circle and then start branching out that way. That's a great way to start kicking that connection number up, to then really experience some of the full capabilities of what LinkedIn can do. Anything you want to add or toss in here, Meg? Anything like that?
No, I think, just noticing that these big check marks are umbrella terms. You can be creative with under the umbrella. So, as George was kind of mentioning, if a project you did is relevant to the work that you want to do in the future, then you could add that under experience. So don't feel fine-tuned. Like, work experience does not just mean things that you were paid to do. So if you need some help kind of being a little creative with that, then definitely come to, office hours tomorrow, or schedule an appointment with a counselor, and we can absolutely help you be creative.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Meg.
Yeah.
So yeah, on the next slide, we'll kind of look at some examples. So this is our lovely colleague, Reggie. He's over in I think it's a school now, School of Data Science.
Yep.
So as you see, we have a great picture. There's Reggie. We have his name, and then we have kind of his headline. So it tells me a little bit more about who Reggie is and him as a person. He's a connector. He works in data science, and he is a STEM community builder. Cool. I now know a little bit more about at the surface level of who kind of Reggie is. So on the next piece, the about me part, now I get to know Reggie a little bit more, right? So he was brought on. I learned more about his role and what he was charged to do, but then also learn about him as a person, right? So tech, ideas, and cultures are things I can talk about all day, which is actually very true. When I first met Reggie, we talked about podcasts for 45 minutes and nothing related to his job. It's like, all right, cool. I now know him as a person rather than just a professional at UVA. Yeah, and then so looking at VAM now, so switching gears, this is an example of a VAM profile and what it could look like. So we have Samantha here. She is a data scientist, and she recently graduated from GSK's Future Leader program. So there's her quick about me. So I'm learning more about Samantha, kind of, again, at the surface level of what she has been doing and what she's been working on at GSK. And then on the next slide, it tells me a little bit more about her experiences. So this is kind of in some way like her resume. But again, these are all great things that I could talk about or mention when I reach out to her through VAM. And again, the really cool thing, I think we talked about this earlier, the cool and awesome thing about VAM is that, if you are anxious about what to say to people, like, I really want to talk to Samantha about X, Y, and Z, based on those qualifiers that they say of what they have expertise in, there's already these preset messages. But we would definitely encourage you to try to customize them as it's relevant to what you want to talk about. But, getting on VAM again is a great way to kind of see those alumni, but then also having those preset messages to kind of start that thinking of what to say when you're reaching out to them.
I also want to make a grounding statement here. What we're looking at are professionals who have had several years of experience.
Oh, yeah.
So don't feel that your profile is not worth anything if you don't have as much experience as this or as fully developed of a profile as this. Mm-hmm. We don't expect you to. No one expects you to. So I think what we kind of are showing you here is like, what is the goal profile? And then where we can start today is how can you start to work up towards that goal profile? I mean, you can even see here we have scientific student worker. That's a student worker role that, she's put onto her profile that obviously shows she got a lot of experience. So that's an example of how you can kind of show your student work before you technically had like your full-time professional experience.
Yeah, we're definitely showing you aspirational profiles here. But yeah, I think as Meg said, this is definitely something to work towards for sure. So before, we talked about, who we are, kind of our interest, skills, and values, and now we're going to get back in our breakout rooms again. And we are going to take those elevator pitches and work on, kind of ways that we can integrate those into our summary or our headline, just giving some feedback to one another in our LinkedIn profile. So as Meg and I had said earlier, we have some other advisors, which you've met now already. They're going to jump back in and show you their profiles first and kind of walk you through theirs, but then hopefully we'll have a chance and, feeling comfortable with one another to share our profiles with one another and then give that kind of feedback to one another also. So from here, you should get a breakout room pop up, and we'll be in the breakout rooms for about 15 to 20 odd minutes or so, and then we'll cut back to the main room here.
Okay, I hope you heard some good stuff in your groups and you got some good feedback, and hopefully you'll take that feedback and edit your profile. If you have further questions or if you want a little bit more one-on-one attention, you can come to drop-in hours tomorrow, 10:30 to noon, or of course schedule an appointment with a counselor. George, did you want to just wrap that up a little bit?
So what were some of the things that you all talked about in y'all's breakout rooms? Like, what are some of the major feedback that you gave to one another? And again, you can either say it, in my group we talked about this, or if you feel more comfortable putting it in the chat, either one's cool. What did you all talk about in your groups? What were some of the feedback that you gave to people? Happy medium length of about section keywords. Yep, good. What else did y'all talk about?
I mean, our group talked a lot about the content, George, and about that meaningful sort of tagline in the beginning and how to make the most out of that. And then a little bit about the experience section as well, and just how to capitalize on some of your experiences and review some of that content together.
Cool. Thanks, Drew. Sounds like you had a good group. That's really good. Really good group leader. Cool, really cool, Taylor. So Taylor said that, after your first year in college, your high school stuff should really start trickling off your profile. Yep, definitely. That's a really great point. Same thing applies to your resume as well. After that first year, so really just start trickling off and really try to start filling it with more collegiate things. Cool. Avoiding the use of assisted at the beginning of a description. Really cool, Albert. That's a really great point. Yeah. So yeah, really try to diversify the verbs that you're using in your experiences. Great point. Any others?
Oh.
No, go ahead, Meg. You're good.
So we're gonna now take what you all just learned, and now we're like, okay, cool. We've got an awesome profile. Let's think about who we could start connecting with. So, have you ever thought, no, I really don't know anyone. Like, I don't know anyone worth connecting with. I don't have a network. I know for me, I came from a really rural town in Virginia, and I was like, I literally, when I went to college, everyone was like talking about networking, and I was like, I don't have a network. Like, that is not something that I have from rural Virginia. But then as I start to kind of expand my thinking, I'm like, actually, I have neighbors. I have friends of the family. I have peers. I have professors. I have people that I can start to connect with. So let's think about that a little bit broader now. Can I have some people either type in the chat or say out loud what a network is? Like, to you, what is a network? There is no wrong answer. Yes. Thanks, Kyle. Yep. Awesome. I love that you all are thinking people-oriented. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Great. Okay. All of these are absolutely right. I just wanted to kind of break down that term network into something that's a little bit more like relevant to our life and manageable. So actually the definition when I Googled it was a group or system of interconnected people or things that makes up a network. So think about that when you are connecting on LinkedIn or on BAM, or even just with neighbors as you walk down the street and stay 6 feet away from one another. Think about how, you know, one connection could lead to another connection, or a friend could lead to 3 friends. And that's actually how LinkedIn is set up. And George is going to talk a little bit about this, but you know, if you connect with one person, then you're one step closer to being the connection of all of their connections. If that makes sense. So let's talk about 2 different aspects of your network. So there are people who are in your close network. So can you all throw into the chat bot, or say out loud like some, I've already actually kind of mentioned a lot of them, but who could be in your like primary network, and the network that immediately surrounds you? This is the network of people that you may run into when you're not quarantined, may run into on a regular basis. Absolutely. Friends, mom. I'm my mom's LinkedIn friend. It's really weird when I see her friends. Yes, George dropped the LinkedIn on y'all. Okay, so what about your network out there? When I say who could be in your network out there, what do I mean? We're not talking aliens here.
Like who can potentially help you get a job or
Yeah.
an internship.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sardi. So maybe people that you wouldn't necessarily like see on a regular basis, but someone who could help you with your career path. Yes, UVA alumni, employers, recruiters, absolutely. So I wanted to put here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this actually in the next group, or in the next portion of the presentation, but this is an alumni professional network on LinkedIn. If you go to this link, actually pause, I'm going to go to that link for you. So at this point in the presentation, I'm actually going to take you through how to find some of these people out there in your network, okay? So give me a second, let me pull up my LinkedIn. Oops. Can everyone see my LinkedIn? Give me a thumbs up or not. Okay, awesome. So first I'm actually just going to Google UVA Alumni Association Professional Networks. Just because that wouldn't actually let me copy and paste the link, but here is a list of the professional networks that you can add yourself to on LinkedIn. I confirmed with the connection at the Alumni Association who created these networks. If you are a recently graduated student, you can add yourself to these networks. If not, keep it on your radar, because this is something that you can add yourself to once you approach graduation. From my understanding, they typically open it up to 4th years during their spring semester, so you can go ahead and start like connecting with, let's say you're interested in entrepreneurship. You can go to the LinkedIn group, and then you can actually click connect. I'm actually already a part of this group. But then as you'll see, there's 195 members, and everyone kind of shares tidbits. Sometimes they'll share jobs. Sometimes they'll ask questions. But this is a really great way for you to connect with people who may share the same interests as you, but maybe in that out there network. Okay, so that's one way that you can connect with alumni on LinkedIn. But also, I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can connect with alumni, 2 other ways that you can connect with alumni on LinkedIn. So the first way is if you go through the University of Virginia profile. So if you go to University of Virginia, and then once it loads, okay, now we go to alumni. And can I have someone drop in chats maybe a job that they're interested in, or a city that you're interested in, or maybe both? Editor. I like that. So you have close to 10,000 alumni who have editor somewhere in their title. Now, can I see a city that you're maybe interested in? If you wouldn't mind sharing, Casey.
Let's do DC.
Great. We have almost 2,300 alumni who have editor in their profile in the DC area. Now, I want to just kind of throw something in here, a little nuance with this. As an undergrad, you can actually, or as a student, you can actually be a part of, you can kind of be listed in this alumni section. So one way to combat that, if you go up here and you put your end year is, let's say 2015, then you know that you're not going to get current alumni in your search, okay? So now we have almost 1,800 alumni who have editor in their title or in somewhere in their resume, or sorry, LinkedIn profile, that you can look at their profile and then choose to connect or not, okay? So I want to take you through that. And now I'm going to take you through the company lens, okay? And remember, we're going to get back to how to connect with this alumni. So just right now, we're walking you through about finding the alumni. So give me a company that you may be interested in working at. I love it. That's actually what someone said last Thursday. And if you said that because Google was listed there, it's because I looked it up last Thursday. Love it. Thanks, John. Okay, so now we're going to Google's home site, and then we're going to people. And then what's really cool is we can actually search. Let's see. Let's add University of Virginia. So now we have 552 employees who have UVA somewhere in their profile, meaning likely they've graduated or gotten some type of certificate from UVA at least, who work at Google. And you can fine tune this even more if you want to seek out specific like titles that they may have. But for now, I'm just going to keep it short and sweet to this. So those are two cool ways that you can actually three really cool ways that you can utilize LinkedIn to find alumni. Now I'm going to quickly go over the Virginia Alumni Mentoring site. So if this is my homepage of VAM, if I go to network, I can then, let's say I'm an English major and I want to see what people do with English majors. Apply. So now we have 125 alumni who again have signed up for VAM to help UVA students who are English majors. So you can scroll through here and again, look at their profile just like you would on LinkedIn. Okay, so I've really focused on how to connect with alumni on these platforms. I'm now going to change it over to George, and that's going to include me stopping my share, George. I'm going to switch it over to George so that he can walk you through actually finding and finding like recruiters and people who are offering jobs in on these platforms.
Alrighty, so I'm going to share my screen now. Let's do screen 2. Cool. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up when you can. Is that a thumbs up?
Yep, thumbs up.
Cool. So Megan talked a little bit about, we're finding companies. Now we're going to switch gears and really tap into that hidden job market, which is just that, right? Being able to find those alumni, being able to find those people. Then also what we'll talk about now is really how to help you think more of like a recruiter or someone who is a manager or an HR specialist, because that's the way to kind of really tap into that hidden job market piece. So the number one thing I can encourage you all to do, and we'll learn about this here, is to really to utilize these things called Boolean searches. You're like, well, George, what are these Boolean searches? What does this mean? So these searches is various ways to search in the search bar in LinkedIn. So I think a lot of times we may automatically search by job titles or areas, which is fine, but it's still, it may be too broad. So this is a way to really be strategic with what you're looking for, but then also the results that are popping up in those results. So the first one that I would encourage you all to learn more about is this thing called quoted searches. Basically what a quoted search is that you are putting in quotations the things that you're looking for. So this is really helpful for specific job titles. So if you have a job title that you want to do some more searching in, so say you know, like, all right, I'm a comp sci major and I'm looking at software developer, right? So if all right, I want to find that phrase, software developer, you put those two words, software developer, in quotations, and it's pulling up that specific phrase now. That's super helpful if you have some kind of clear idea if you're wanting to look for certain job titles, and to learn more about those job titles, just what Megan talked about, go to the UVA LinkedIn homepage and see what are some of the kind of common job titles that you see, entry-level UVA alums having. Other searches that you can use are not, or, and searches. And so the first one, not searches, so you're basically, and it's going to be, whenever you use these Boolean searches, they're going to be all in all caps here. So the first one is the not, right? So it excludes the word after the first word. So, and this is really helping you to limit your search, right? So I'm looking for, in quotations, programmer, but not manager. I'm not looking for a program manager position. I'm looking solely for a programmer job title. The next one is or searches. So again, or is going to be in capital letters. With or, this helps you really broaden your search. So if you don't know a specific job title that you want to look into, but like, all right, I want to look in this specific industry area of finance or sales, right? Things that are kind of related to one another, that's going to help you broaden that search a bit more. So our example here, all right, we're doing, again, quotations, sales, or in all caps, marketing, or, in all caps, advertising, end quotations. That is, again, helping us kind of do a broad search, because then once we do that broad search, then we might start to find those specific job titles, and then we could start narrowing down from there. And lastly, and. So and is very similar to not, that it's going to start limiting your searches by what you put. I'm looking for an accountant and finance and something else. So it's really trying to hone in on these specific phrases or words that may pop up on somebody's profile. So an example of this would be something like this, right? So, all right, I'm looking for the job title or somewhere on their profile, the phrase talent acquisition. That's a very common phrase or job title that you'll see in people who are in those recruiting roles. And if you're a recently graduated fourth year, like, all right, I'm looking for a job. I'm looking for talent acquisitions who have the phrase I'm hiring somewhere on their profile. That could be in their header, that can be their about me, that can be in their current job, wherever, right? I'm finding talent acquisition people who are currently hiring who may be in the software realm, right? So again, kind of as Meg said, software is somewhere popping up on their profile. So from those 3 searches in the search bar there alone, we have some pretty great hits. We have a senior recruiter, I'm hiring for this company. My current recruiting focus is hiring in we don't know what, but then we can do some more digging around and following up on her profile. Currently hiring with Brian, we got a technical recruiter at Microsoft, cool. Talent acquisition, global design recruiter, I'm hiring. So it's very cool. I was able to put myself in an employer's shoes and have some of the search terms that they're doing to then specifically identify and locate recruiters, because then at this point I now can see what they're looking for, and if I feel like I'm qualified for that position, develop that message to reach out to them. I'm gonna share the screen. So we talked about the quotations. I'm gonna show you some other ones real quick. So we have the marketing. So we have marketing or advertising that says I'm hiring. We got 153 people, which is pretty awesome. The really cool thing about the search function, so start broad first, but then here you can really dig deeper. So it's like, all right, I want to see this search with anybody that has second connections. A second connection means that I know someone who knows that person, which is amazing because then I can have that person, my friend, introduce me to person X, right? So I could have Richard introduce me to Galen, who's currently hiring experienced media strategists or media buyers. There's tons of ways you could play around with these filters, and I would highly encourage to spend some time on doing so. The other thing that we could do is that we can also search by, as Meg was talking about, the school part. So if we go to all filters and we scroll down, this is another way to kind of also identify certain industries also. I'm looking for in the industry of computer software or marketing, but if we're looking for UVA, potential UVA alumni, we can type in the school right here. So University of Virginia. And we go to apply. And we have no results, so that sucks. But let's see if we can kind of target this a bit more. We have marketing or advertising. 4,300 people, super broad. All right, I'm really looking for something in the Richmond area. And I'm looking for second connections. Let's see if anybody pops up. 85 people, so that's not too bad. So yeah, when it comes to doing these searches, as you're seeing, it's really a trial and error game. And you're really gonna have to play around with the search functions and the search terms because it's not necessarily a one size fits all. You really have to kind of see what industry you want to go into. And then again, back to our branding piece, what are some of the common phrases? What are some of the common words that are popping up that I need to start familiarizing myself with in my searches and having in my profile? So that's an or example. Another or example, this is the technical recruiter or talent acquisition, so the same job phrase or job area. Technical recruiter, talent acquisition, technical recruiter, talent acquisition. Cool, I now know these are people who are looking for people like me. Software engineer, and here's an example of really basic software engineer, in quotations, who work at CarMax, who are in Richmond, who are second connections, and there's 13 people. So again, I would highly encourage you all to spend some time digging around on the search bar, playing around with those various Boolean searches, the or, ands, and the nots. But your best one is going to be the quotations. Always start with the quotations first if you have some sort of idea of a specific job, phrase, or title that you're looking for. The other really great thing I would highly encourage you all to get involved in is groups. Groups are really phenomenal on LinkedIn. So say renewable energy in groups. There are 3,000 groups that focus on renewable energy. And as you see here, there's one that's specifically that's talking about jobs, right? So this is a great way to start getting further connected to an industry area, or if you're looking for opportunities, a great way to start aligning yourself further with that field. Typically, larger groups are going to be more active. That's not necessarily always the case, but really I think that the major takeaway point home today is being intentional and strategic with how you utilize LinkedIn, because it can really be wonderful if you use it kind of what we're talking about today. So get involved in groups. I think they're really phenomenal, a way to also connect with like-minded individuals who are having the same interests, having the same passions. The cool thing about groups is that it's also a great way for employers and recruiters to slide jobs out there. Typically, an employer or recruiter has to pay to post on LinkedIn. I've heard anywhere between $300 to $500 per job, which is a lot of money for them, but it costs literally $0 for them to be a part of a group and then post a job saying, hey, we're looking for sustainability engineers. If you're interested or know somebody, please pass along my contact information. So the groups can be a really phenomenal, just another avenue to kind of see what's going on out there in that professional world. And from here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it back over to Meg.
Yeah, so.
Well, real quick, I know there's a lot of information all at once. Any questions on the Boolean search stuff? I know that was pretty wild. And again, you can talk about it, or if you want to put the question in the chat, that's fine too. Any questions about Boolean searches?
I have one question.
Sure.
When you use the or statement, do you usually put the quotation marks around both or statements?
So you're going to have one bracket of quotations, right? So you're going to put everything in that one, quotation, sales or marketing or advertising, end quote.
Okay.
Yeah, great
Thank
question.
you.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Meg.
All right. And again, these kind of searches look different for everybody. It really depends on what you're looking for. So I think George kind of gave you all the options, and then you can use the tools to kind of do as you wish with it. So at this point, we've created we've told our story, we've created our profile, we've found alumni and professionals that we could connect with. Now we want to actually initiate that connection. So I know my biggest, again, I'm going back to how I experienced undergrad, my biggest anxiety, which actually parallels with a lot of the students I meet with, is I don't want to sound stupid. Like if I reach out, what do I say to not sound, too eager, not eager enough? So let's talk through some strategies for messaging. So first and foremost, make it personal. One way to make it personal is by actually reading through the person's profile and understanding a little bit more about that person. So let's say that person used to volunteer in the same role that you volunteered in at Madison House. That could be something that you could use to personalize a message to them and to kind of bring them to a connection with you. Maybe make it personal could be like, oh, I see that you're from this area and I'm also from that area. Introduce yourself. So that's pretty simple, right? Your name, your major, what you're interested in, kind of what we've done this entire, or what we did at the beginning of this presentation. And then what's your purpose in connecting? So this is really where it gets specific to what you need. So, if you're a first year and you're honestly just trying to explore what career paths you may want to go into, maybe that's what you say, just to set that expectation right off the gate. On the other end, maybe you're a graduate at fourth year who is looking to connect with people in roles that you are interested in applying to. Maybe you want to state that purpose of, oh, I saw that, you work at Google as a software engineer, and I'm actually interested in working as a software engineer. And one of my companies that I'm interested in is Google. I'd love to kind of hear about your story and your trajectory from UVA to where you are now. Mention any referrals. So I will tell you that oftentimes, when you're in a meeting with me, if I think of like a peer that I knew from undergrad or a friend or someone, or even a connection that I've made since undergrad who would be interested in talking to you, I will often say like, hey, you got to reach out to that person. This could be a point where you say, Meg Saunders, I met with Meg Saunders at the UVA Career Center and they suggested I reach out to you. That way you're kind of closing in that circle. And then be polite and professional. Just realize that you even though you're not a thorn in their side, unless you aren't polite and professional, but just realize that you are taking their time. So just be grateful for that and thank them for the time that they spend with you. And then let's see. A few things to remember. So be appropriate and relevant with your questions. So, if you reach out to a recruiter who has a job posted that's hiring, I know at the beginning of this presentation, I said, do not ask for a job. But one of the ways that you can, an appropriate way to get around that when you're actually contacting a recruiter because they are hiring is to say, I am interested in this specific role that you're hiring for. Another way to get around that is to find an alumni who also works at that company, to build a relationship with that alumni, and then to ask them to connect you to through to that recruiter. So it's a couple of ways that you can go about it, but just remember to make sure that your reason for connecting or your questions for that alumni are appropriate and relevant. And I say alumni, but I mean alumni or professional. And then just remember that there's a 300 character limit, which includes your spacing, unfortunately. So sometimes I like to type things out on a Word document and then copy and paste just so that I can actually see what the spacing or what the character limit looks like. And then if you run into somebody, I mean, not many of us are running into people right now, but in the future, if you run into people and you connect with them, then add them within 24 to 48 hours so they recall meeting you. I've had this happen before. I always reference coffee shops because I find that if I'm like standing in line to order at a coffee shop or even another like small lunch place, I'm like always debating my order, and I always look to the person beside me and I ask them what they're ordering. And then before you know it, there's a conversation happening, and that's someone I can connect with on LinkedIn. So connect with them quickly, and then also reiterate, you know, I met you yesterday in X coffee shop, and I look forward to connecting with you further. So I say all this, but I want you all to practice it. So we're going to go into our breakout session number 3. And number 3, we are going to actually come up with messages to alumni or recruiters. So if you are an odd breakout group, I'd like you to focus on a message to a recruiter. If you are an even breakout group, I'd like you to focus on your message on an alumni. Okay?
Yep. Meg, when you say odd or even, are you referring to numbers or like number of people in the group?
That's a great question. I mean the group number. So
okay.
Not numbers of people, the group.
Gotcha. So
yeah.
We actually don't have numbers this time. We're assigned by names, I think. So if we could do this, so if we could have Drew and if we could have Catherine in their groups focus on recruiters, I think that would be awesome. And then myself, Kyle, and Katie will focus on alumni.
Love it. Thank you so much, George.
You're welcome.
So we'll have about 10 minutes to break out and do this. I'd like you to assign someone in your group to kind of type it out and actually copy it, because when we return to our big breakout group, we're going to have you paste it into the chat so that everyone kind of gets to share in these templates. Okay. So
the other thing, if you all, when your group leaders, when we go to our groups, if the group leader wants to try, if you guys want to brainstorm to trying to find a person, kind of give them what we just talked about. And if you're trying to find an alumni or recruiter, given those Boolean searches or the LinkedIn alumni page, that would be a way to really have a more specific and targeted message and give you more of that practice of actually doing it. I think would be kind of pretty cool also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you all should see join breakout pop up on your screen. And I will see you in 10 minutes. All right, everybody, welcome back. So we have about 10 more minutes and a little bit, probably more than 10 minutes of content. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. What I would like to do now is to have you all enter your messages into the chat. So whoever your representative was, go ahead and copy and paste your message into the Zoom group chat. And then to everyone else, I would suggest also copying those messages and putting them in a Word document so that you have kind of like a little portfolio of templates that you can, that's okay, Catherine, that you can utilize when you are reaching out to whether it's a recruiter or an alumni.
Oh, Catherine, it's okay.
Kyle, I love that one. Let's see. I only have one so far in there. Where are my other? There we go. Love it.
Our group is coming. We were still typing when we got done, so I was supposed to stall, but then you didn't let me talk, so I'm not stalling.
Thanks for the transparency, Drew.
Yeah, I'm just being really honest and transparent in this state. But my guy's working on it, so it'll be there soon. But it's to a recruiter, so it's coming, team.
Awesome. So this is an example. In the meantime, I'll stall for you, Drew. In the meantime, I wanted to kind of share this example. So this is also an example of an alumni message that I had created. Again, all of these are great, but they just kind of show you how you don't have to necessarily be, you don't have to have the same message for everyone. It's kind of like a cover letter. Like you can make that message special for each person that you reach out to. So what I would like to do is continue on again, because we do have a lot, not a lot, but we have a good amount more to cover. So for those of you who are still typing, totally okay. Just go ahead and put it into the Zoom group chat when you have it. And then for those of you who are just copying and pasting, just remember to check that before you log off today. So now we have found alumni, we have initiated the connection, we have probably had some type of conversation with them, and now we want to figure out how to continue to cultivate and grow your network. What I mean by this is, I also often hear from students, how often do I have to check in with the alumni or the professionals that I connect with? And what I always tell to them is just make sure that it's authentic, that it's genuine. Some examples could be to reach out to that alumni after you've had a conversation and thank them. Actually, you should always do that, but you can thank them in several ways. You can thank them either through an email, you can thank them through a handwritten note. I mean, that's amazing. Snail mail is still gold. You can thank them with a small gift of gratitude. You can thank them in several ways after you have reached out, you've talked to them, you've thanked them, and maybe a month has passed by and you haven't talked to them, maybe 2 months have passed by and you haven't talked to them, but then maybe they pop up on your timeline on LinkedIn and you see that they've recently gotten a promotion. Reach out, congratulate them. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It can just be like, oh my gosh, I know that you've been working so hard for that, congratulations. If you knew that they had a son or daughter who was applying to UVA, maybe reach out and ask them, hey, how's the application going? If your son or daughter has any questions, I'd love to talk to them. Maybe you know that this person does research on a certain topic and you found an article that reminded you of the research that person has done. Maybe you share that article with them. Those are all ways that you can continue to connect, and it can be genuine and not forced. You absolutely do not need to set a reminder every month to reach out to that person. Just make sure that you're staying in touch with their life. So whether that's like, looking at things on LinkedIn or, if you see something that thinks of them, that makes you think of them, then you share it. Just make sure that you are being genuine with that. So some other thoughts, let me see, I had some other notes. Just be strategic and intentional with growing your network. Again, no reason for it to be a forced thing. So we have talked all about networking today. Now I'm going to let George kind of ground us in where we are in current events.
So I know everybody hears this. The world is pretty wild right now and pretty crazy and pretty unpredictable. I've been turning a lot of literature and just reading more as well as I can, just to kind of stay, as Meg said, stay grounded a bit. This is one from an old emperor and really big on like Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius. He said that you have power over your mind and not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. I think that is very, very important of what's kind of happening right now. You may be a recently graduated fourth year who had their job rescinded. You may be a student who had their internship canceled or rescinded. And I know it's stressful and it feels not fair, right? But there's literally, we had no power over what those things were going to happen. We don't have power over the economy or things. Like, focus on the things that you can control. And, as we talked about today, the number one thing that you can really control is being intentional and strategic and building out that network. And you now have all the great tools to really do that. So this is really a chance for you to find that strength and feel in control when building your network. So like we now have those really great profiles. We now know how to find people, and more importantly, we also know we feel more confident in constructing and putting that message together that we now know they're probably going to respond to, rather than some blanket messaging that from a person that they don't even know. And that's all I got to say about that.
To control the controllables. And one way we can do that is by reflecting and really setting some goals. So we're going to do a quick 3, 2, 1. George, I'll actually let you take this part.
Yeah, sure. Just what we're talking about, reflection is huge, and really taking the time to think about that is massive. And I think now with where we're kind of at in the world, we have a lot more of this time, which, as a UVA student, time is always of the essence, and time feels very limited. But we now have a lot more time to actually sit and think about what we're kind of working towards or working on, whether that be ourselves or whether that be our potential career. So, what are 3, you can either write this down on a piece of paper, if you want to type it up in a Word doc to save for later, to come back to. Whatever works for you works for us. Or if you want to put it in the chat box or talk about it as well, like, that's great. But what are 3 things that you learned today that you did not know about before? That could be LinkedIn, that could be VAM, that could be how to write these messages, whatever you want to talk. What are the 3 things that you learned that you just didn't know about before today? So we're going to show all these for the sake of time. So Megan, if you can pull the other 2, and then we'll take a couple seconds or a couple minutes to really think about them. So what are 2 industry areas or potential companies that you want to explore more? So as Meg talked about earlier with the design your life stuff and prototyping, if you want to do some more research on companies, that's basically what you're doing, prototyping these potential industry areas or companies. And then lastly, what is one thing that you can do today to really start growing your network? So take a couple minutes. I know we're already kind of close on time, but take a couple minutes, write these things down, and then we'll share here in a couple minutes.
While you write them down, I want to just kind of go into next steps for those of you who have to leave at 1. So make an appointment. The UVA Career Center has appointments available on Handshake from 12 to 5 every day. So please definitely go on to Handshake, make an appointment. We would love to see you. Also, if you are a part of a different school on ground, so let's say you're not a part of the College of Arts and Sciences, you're a part of McIntyre, Batten, engineering, etc. All of the different schools have their own career services office. So I'm making a plug for them because they're also incredible colleagues and they're awesome, and they would also love to meet with you. So definitely make an appointment with them. If you're like, I don't know, 45 minutes of my time seems like a bit, you can actually come to drop-in hours tomorrow from 10:30 to noon. Again, that's drop-in. If we're done in 15 minutes, then you are, can kind of enjoy the rest of your day, but we would love to see you there. Additionally, you're going to receive a follow-up email from me, and that's going to have a post survey. Please, please, please fill out this post survey because it helps us perfect this presentation. This is only the 2nd time that we've done it, and I will tell you one of the things that we've done is added more breakout session time because that is a feedback that we got last week. So we will listen. Please just put in your constructive feedback into the post survey so that we can better this program as we move forward throughout the summer. You'll also receive a summary document with some of the highlighted points that we've made throughout today's presentation. And if I can get it in time, then I'll also add the recording from today's presentation. If I can't get it in time, then what I'll do is I'll just add the presentation, or I'll send it out at a later date. And then last but not least, you can start connecting today. Again, that's what's so cool about this virtual platform. You can connect as soon as you get off here, or maybe you want to take a 2-second break and then connect. Just start connecting and do yourself a favor in growing your network.
Yeah, I just want to add in real quick. I got a lot of connections from y'all earlier, so they're practicing what we've been talking about, which is great. When you said, hey, add all your career advisors on the thing, so that's cool. The other thing that I want to share with you all is that contrary to popular belief, the Career Center is open all summer. A lot of students think that we close or that we're not seeing students. We totally still are, as Meg said earlier. We have office hours or seeing students Monday through Friday, 12 to 5. So we're totally still available in the summer to talk about these things, but really anything else that you may need help with career development wise, whether you're a rising second year or a graduating fourth year, whatever you need to talk about, we're here for you in the summer. Just want to kind of put that out there so students know that. And then the other big thing, tell your friends that we are open and that we can see students.
And then also, I just added in the link to our office hours tomorrow in the chat. The link that's on the screen is from last week's office hours. So if you want to register for tomorrow's office hours or find the Zoom link that you can sign into, it is now in this chat. So I think that's it for today. We are so appreciative that you've taken your time to come and join us and to expand your network and your professional development during this really trying time. If you have questions, George and I are happy to stay on for a few minutes.
Also, but before you leave, does anybody want to share the 3 things that they may have learned today that they didn't know before? Sorry to cut you off, Meg.
Oh, it's okay.
So what are 3, and you can only share, you can share 1 if you want. You don't have to share all 3. But what's 1 thing that you learned today that you didn't know before? And again, chat, had a Boolean search, cool. If you want to talk it out loud, that's cool too.
Yeah, I'll share how I didn't know how much you could personalize your LinkedIn page in terms of pictures and custom URLs and really putting your story out that way.
Awesome.
Cool, thanks, Kate.
Yeah. Good. It looks like we've got some good stuff from this, and we're so happy to see this because I will tell you, we have really been intentional about what we tried to put in here, and it's a lot of information into a 2-hour workshop.
Yeah, for sure. And just as Robert had talked about, get on VAM. VAM's a really great, just another virtual tool for you to use in this, especially this coming summer. Really, use it all time, but like I think the summer is a really great time to really start utilizing these tools and profiles. Yeah.
Yes, Wafa, we are hopefully sharing the recording out in a follow-up email. And I say hopefully just because I will send it at some point, but it may not be in the first follow-up email. Well, again, thank you all so much for being here with us today. We want to be cognizant of your time and let you go. We're running a few minutes over, but George and I are happy. I have a student appointment at 1:15, but I'm happy to stay on till then to answer some questions.
And I can hang out too to answer any questions.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.